Hey, what's up, guys? What's going on, YouTube world? This your boy Trucker Richie Rich, back on these ones and twos on a late night tip. Let's talk some dollars and some cents. The video I'm about to show you guys is reason why I double down and say truckers do not need to carry firearms on their person. Unfortunately, about 2 days ago, the drivers got into a shootout in Illinois up there, and it was over something stupid like a parking space or something. But unfortunately, a person died and one person is going to jail. And this is why I double down and say we don't need firearms out here on the road, okay? Because truck drivers, I'm not going to lie, we get really emotional and upset easily. And it adds to our frustration with road rage. After the video play, it's only a short clip. I'm going to explain to you how I handle, rude truck drivers and anger issues on the road, okay? Stay tuned.
This is just to show you how serious it gets out here, guys. Bullet holes. People shooting at trucks. Look at that.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you probably saw the video I just uploaded. A truck driver shot at another one, and then the other guy in the truck pulled out a gun, and it was a gunfight. Unfortunately, somebody had died, and one person is going to jail possibly for the rest of their life. Now, how do I encounter and how do I deal with rudeness out here on the road? Listen, it happens on a daily basis. I will be lying to you if I said it was always flowers and roses out here. It is not. Truck drivers it's us and then the general public, we're always being cut off. We're always being, honked at, given the middle finger. Truckers cut us off, and cars cut us off. I say out here on the road in my last 10 years, there was probably 3 situations where I could have gotten into a real physical altercation. But I had to learn how to deal with rudeness and rude behavior. And you know how I deal with it now? I ignore them. I pretend I don't even hear them talking. My philosophy is, as long as they don't put their hands on me, I'll pretend like they're not even there. And I just walk past them, and a lot of times they're arguing at the air. You'll be surprised how many truck drivers come up to like me because I work for Prime, or when I used to work for Stevens, thinking that we don't know what we're doing. Not realizing that I've been out here for the road for almost 10 years. Okay, a lot of times they'll see these mega carriers and assume that you're a new driver and you don't know what you're doing. Or if you're sitting down, like for instance, I'll give you one example. I pulled up to a fuel aisle one day, and I wasn't even sitting there for 5 minutes before another trucker came banging on my door and asked me to hurry up and fuel and hurry up and move. I wanted to react angrily. I ain't gonna lie to you, because I have a very low tolerance for disrespect. And I carried over from my younger days and from me being law enforcement. Okay, I thank God that when I got out of law enforcement, camera phones weren't really out, because you would see your boy Richie Rich on World Star. Okay, and trust me, I have had complaints on me, and I'm not proud of that. It's just that I was quick to get in your ass quickly. Okay, because I didn't take disrespect, and especially if I thought you were going to do something to me before I could react. But now I'm an older guy, and I have to think logically, other than emotionally. I can't let a temporary emotion make a permanent decision for me. Okay, so the way I deal with rudeness out here on the road, and trust me, as a truck driver, you are going to encounter it on a daily basis. The level of disrespect you count out here is amazing. Okay, I had another situation where, and this one really ticked me off. I was trying to back into a parking space in Texas. So I'm literally setting myself up to back, and another trucker just noses it in there and shuts off his lights. Now, what I wanted to do was get out the truck and yank his ass out the truck. I did. Just a simple fact, it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. I was dead tired from driving all night, and he did that to me. That sent me to the roof. But luckily, I thought cooler heads prevailed, and I just kept driving. Drove to the next truck stop. What else happened? I mean, just numerous things. I mean, even dealing with racism, and I should touch on this. I used to have a CB in my truck, I used to have a CB in my truck. I was excited to have a CB in my truck, but I took it out. And the main reason I took it out is that I got tired of being called the N word on a daily basis. It was ridiculous. Okay, I mean, I couldn't tell you how many times I was called the N word. I mean, every day. Look at that N word driving this. Look at that N word driving that. Sitting in the parking lot, and really, you don't know who it is who on the CB, but it's somebody in your vicinity. Okay, they'll never be balls enough to tell you that to your face. They'll always say it over the CB. And I'm gonna lie to you, it was driving me crazy emotionally. It will have me stressed out listening to the CB. And really, I've never verbally attacked anybody on the CB. I never talked crazy. I only used it for, case of emergencies, or I need to know what's going on with traffic up the road. But a lot of times, man, driving down the interstate, look at that N-word driving this, or looking at this and that, and I just got tired of it. So I took the CB out the truck, and I hadn't had a CB in my truck, and honest to God, probably 5 years. I think it's a dead technology. And I think that it just leads to frustration and anger sometimes. Now, thank God for Google Maps that will tell you about an accident up the road or something like that. And a lot of guys, what they'll do is they only turn the CB on when it's like stop traffic. They'll turn it on and turn it back off. Those CB things used to get on my nerve. Okay, one of the most severe thing that happened to me out here on the road. Okay, I'll tell you, I was in Utah. Salt Lake City area, a little past Salt Lake City on I-80. I was parked at the Flying J. And when I was parked up there, that Flying J has about 17 fuel aisles. It's pretty big, okay? So I pulled in the Flying J about 7 o'clock at night, pulled into the last fuel aisle, and I sat there for a second to get my thoughts together, okay? I was figuring out what I was going to do for fueling and grabbing something to eat, okay? I haven't even took 2 minutes before a trucker jumped on my truck and was banging on my door, and I couldn't for life of me understand what he was doing. And he was saying, I was going to take that spot. I was like, okay, I'm sorry. When I looked over to the last 16 fuel pumps, there was only 2 other trucks parked there. So I didn't understand why he was so upset about that. Then he says to me, well, Obama's not in office, so you can't do what you want to anymore. And I lost it. I did, and I broke my rule, and I snapped. I did, and I threatened to rip down his head and shit down his shoulder. The military stuff. And I wanted to put hands on him. I started walking to him, and he started screaming "F you," and it was so close that my student grabbed me. He's like, "Well, don't do it." So I told the guy, I said, "You're lucky, because if I put my hands on you, I might break your neck and you might die." So he took that and he ran into the truck stop. And he told, I'm watching him. He runs into the truck stop. He points at me. He says, "That guy threatened my life." What always bothered me about these guys that start stuff is that they're so quick to call the law when, they use it as a tool. And really, at that time, there were a lot of police killings of blacks in the nation, right? And I took that as a personal threat. I think when somebody threatens to call the police on me, that's a personal threat to me. And I started to go off, and then luckily I went into the truck stop because the people inside were picking up the phone to call the police. They believed him from the jump. And luckily there was another trucker who walked in there and said, "Hey, listen, that guy's being racist." So that man was minding his business, sitting there, and this guy attacked him. Lady hung the phone up and was like, "I am so sorry, sir." They didn't believe me. And that was one of the most hairy situations. And that happened about 5 or 6 years ago up there in Salt Lake City. And I just didn't understand. I was like, what? I'm minding my business, sitting there. And mind you, I'm 6'2", 350 pounds. Okay? And I look like I should be a defensive tackle for your favorite football team. Okay? Back then, I was in even better shape than I was now. I am now. But I didn't understand the guy's mentality. But to say this is why I'm really big on ignoring the negativity and ignoring other truckers. You have to for your mental health. Because if you don't, you know, the most scariest thing that can happen to you is you're 2,000 miles away from home and you catch a case. You know, I hate the fact that a lot of these truckers do start things with you, and because you work for a mega carrier and your name's on the side of the truck, the first thing that they want to do is call your company and try to get you fired, or they want to call the police and try to get you locked up. And even though they started the mess, okay. So that's why I adopted the philosophy is I pretend you're not even there. And I do it for my own mental health. I pretend that they're not even there. I had a guy one time, and I think he was just mad at Prime. Okay, I don't know what this guy's issue was. I pulled up to the fuel aisle, and I pulled up to the rest line that's above the fuel aisle, you know, after you get done fueling. I went inside, grabbed some coffee, and I'm walking back, and he's yelling at me about taking too long, and I pretend he wasn't even there. I kept walking. I didn't hear nothing he said. I didn't even look at him. I didn't even acknowledge him. And that's for his protection. You understand? Because I don't want to black out and put hands on him. You know, but, you know, I don't have a lot of problems on the road, but I do incur, you know, and you will incur some BS out here. I'm not going to lie to you. You will. And you just have to let it roll down your shoulder. And you have to let your patience win. You have to let your calmness win, because if not, you can really get into some hairy situation out here. So that video that you saw earlier, that is of the guy. Two guys got into a cock measuring contest, is what I call it. You know, and unfortunately, they both lost. You know, pulling guns on each other, shooting each other. They could have killed an innocent bystander. As you see, there was multiple bullets in that window. But I'll be honest with you, that's not the first time I saw that. You know, I've seen some real hairy things. So my advice to anybody who's coming into trucking, you know, especially if you're new, this is especially if you're new, ignore the hate and ignore the BS. Don't even respond to it. Okay? There's guys out here who will tell you how to drive your truck all day long. Even when you're on the highway, they'll tell you how to drive your truck all day long. I mean, you just have to ignore it. If not, you would get caught up in the BS, and next thing you know, you will be in prison. Okay, so my advice for today is ignore the hate and keep it moving. Okay, it's late night. Richie Rich just wanted to look a little quick update. I hope everybody's doing good. Like, subscribe, and comment. And let's chat until next time. Peace.